The Paranormal Ecto News Flash with Cody from the Southwest Ghost Hunters Association. Now.
I'm Cody Polston, and this is your Paranormal Ecto News Flash. And today we're going to be talking with Loyd Auerbach, this time about some of the equipment that was used in ghost hunting.
One of the things I heard about, I heard that you were one of the people that kind of got the whole thermal imaging thing going.
Yeah, Andrew Nichols, who's a psychologist, parapsychologist in Florida, and I had been talking. We had coincidentally been the first people who had picked up at the same time the tri-field meters, and actually I'm the first person apparently, what I'm told, to use one on TV, which I'm kind of sorry about.
Yeah.
In some respects. But we were having a discussion about a pilot we were shooting. We were actually shooting a TV pilot which has never aired, which one of these days the producers and I will probably release it to the web, but some people have actually seen it. And we were doing a couple cases in Florida, and the pilot was in conjunction with Japanese television, and they were basically funding whatever equipment we needed for the situation. And Andy and I had this idea, having seen the Predator movies, that since people often report cold spots, even though they're not physically cold, as we know, it might be interesting to see, because TV is a visual medium, whether or not a thermal vision camera could pick up a cold spot. We expected when we gone on these cases that we had the thermal imaging with in Florida, that we'd see a differential in temperature if people were experiencing something, if they were experiencing cold or whatever.
Right.
And lo and behold, what we found was some unusual effects on the thermal vision that the company couldn't really explain, which we don't think were ghosts, but we do think were an effect of a ghost or something in the environment on that thermal vision camera. We also were lucky enough to have a room physically drop in temperature 22 degrees over a 20-minute period, and you didn't see any phenomena, but what you did see is the walls darkening as that actually happened. So the thermal vision was really to check for environmental changes, but it did apparently pick up some weird stuff that we couldn't explain too.
Right. Okay.
I will mention that. I just want to mention that the weird stuff, whenever you get anything weird on any device, you have to compare it against the human experience. And we were fortunate that when the weird things were happening with the thermal vision, we were actually getting unusual readings on every piece of equipment we actually had. And it was all starting at the moment this Japanese medium we were working with was supposedly talking to a little girl's ghost. And it lasted as long as she talked to the ghost.
You always got to keep the human experience in there. I mean, because I think that's one of the things that the hardcore skeptics discredit. Like, oh, they're just crazy. But there's just too much of it. But that's what we're studying. I mean, we're studying the human experience. We're not studying something in the environment. I mean, even if there really are ghosts, we're dealing with a human who is dead. That means they're having a human experience also. Right.
So when it boils right down to is we may be dealing with experiences that have a physical cause, or they may have a non-physical cause, one we can't pin down given our current science. But the issue is that if you leave out the human experience and you're using equipment that's not designed to detect something which we can't figure out, then what are you actually detecting?
Mm-hmm.
You have no context. You have an unusual magnetic field reading. I mean, when Andy and I did this case for our pilot, we had several different types of EMF meters going off. We had a Geiger counter going off. We had a geomagnetic sensing station went offline. It spiked so hard. We had the thermal vision picking things up. So everything was going off at the time that Mrs. Gibo, the psychic, was talking to this little girl's ghost. Now, remove her from the equation. You have an environmental anomaly which sets everything off. And I actually talked to a friend of a friend at the EPA, an environmental scientist, and he kiddingly said to me, I know what could cause all those things to go off at the same time. And I said, what? He said, a nuclear explosion. But since you're sitting here, I'm guessing that's not what happened.
Right.
So there's no context. We had nothing. I mean, if you don't have a human experience, you got nothing. You just got a bunch of really weird things that need to be explained with no way to even start explaining it.
You will believe that we're not alone.